Hey Narwhals, I'm your host Luke Narwhal, and welcome back to some more weight loss stories. Does anyone get super obsessive about Seco for 1 to 2 weeks and then burn out? I'm starting to feel hopeless. Female, 26, 5'4", 150 pounds. Sorry, this is long, but I'm spiraling. I probably tried and failed 20 to 25 times to try to take accountability for how much I eat by logging. I feel like I have to log or I unintentionally eat 2,000 plus calories easily a day and then obviously end up gaining weight. Honestly, I love food and the cooking process, and a lot of the joy in my life is from making and eating. But when I log, I still want to cook, but then I get super wound up for 1 to 2 weeks, just constantly obsessing and thinking and planning and looking at calories for everything. My day just becomes constantly planning meals all day, and I just have a one-track mind. Obviously, that's not very sustainable, so I get burned out and just end up binging really hard and putting the app down for months at a time. When I inevitably start feeling crappy again because I unintentionally eat too much, and then it starts all over. Does anyone have tips to get out of this rut? I keep trying to tell myself to stop, but I get so agitated and I can't help myself. I don't know how else to be, and it's making me feel so trapped. I definitely used to get stuck in these loops, calorie counting every single thing, meal prepping every week, and just feeling burnt out and uninspired by my food. Then going totally off the rails and binging on junk. I stopped calorie counting last August, and I've been maintaining. I would eventually like to lose another 10 to 20 pounds, but I'm not in a major rush and focusing more on fitness right now. I've basically been trying to take the tools calorie counting taught me to make informed choices about food and portions. So right now, here's what I'm doing. Using a loose intermittent fasting window to reduce calorie consumption from snacking all day. Eating 3 meals between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. is working well for me. Focusing on high volume, low calorie eating with lots of protein and fiber. It's way easier to naturally stay in a calorie deficit when your meals are mainly lean proteins and fiber-rich veggies, fruit, and legumes. Reducing simple and processed carbs, sugar, and fatty foods will naturally reduce your calorie intake quite well. And big focus on fitness and just moving more in general. More walking, running, resistance training, and stretching. Setting fitness goals and sticking with fitness challenges. Currently doing Caroline Girvan's Epic program, and it's brutal. Practicing some mindful eating by eating slowly, sipping water, listening to my hunger cues, and not eating until stuffed. And limiting takeout and fast food to once a week and enjoying it in a small portion. I definitely prefer this lifestyle over calorie counting, focusing more on how food makes me feel and overall nutrition rather than what I can squeeze into my calorie goal. I also love cooking, and it's often easier to track when you're cooking as you know exactly what goes in. I personally incorporate logging into cooking, almost like a game. I challenge myself to cook something delicious within my calorie goals. For instance, thinking about ways to incorporate low-calorie additions like lemon, garlic, capers, tomatoes, vinegar, veggies, etc. to make a delicious dish. To be honest, it's easy to cook something tasty if you throw enough carbs and fat and sugar at something. But creating and balancing recipes within limitations takes more skill, and it's a fun thing to challenge yourself if you enjoy the cooking process. I am a binger. I love stuffing my face full of food, and I can't get enough of it. I just do it with fruit, vegetables, and cottage cheese now. You know those bags of lettuce that are supposed to feed a family of 4? I cut up 2 tomatoes, cook half a pound of chicken, use very little dressing, and eat the whole damn thing. I know it's hard when it feels like you're not eating what you like, aka fried foods, instant noodles, and whatnot, but try not to focus on macros so much at first. Just see what your calories are and go from there. My macros were awful when I first started, and then I just learned to start enjoying my meals. My breakfast is usually 2 eggs, 2-ounce ham steak, 1 cup of spinach, 2 tablespoons sour cream, 1 Roma tomato diced, and hot sauce. It tastes great, and I get really full from it. I dip all the fruit into plain low-fat yogurt, which is disgusting by itself, but tastes great when mixed with fruit. I bought a veggie spiraler for when I feel like having pasta. I made spaghetti with zucchini, and it was great. Obviously pasta is better, but the difference isn't huge. There's lots of little things that you can do that taste pretty good and aren't at all bad for you. I hope this helps. I just knew I needed something sustainable, and not eating like a pig wasn't something that sat right with me. So far I'm down 35 pounds in 3 months, 50 more to go. Edit, I kind of forgot to mention I walk 25 to 35 miles a week. One thing that's been helpful for me is having a handful of recipes that fit my daily calorie goals that I know are fairly easy to make, and I always keep those ingredients on hand. Sometimes this involves a little light meal prep, like at the beginning of the week, I'll soft boil half a dozen eggs since I know I'll use them for breakfast each day. But most of them are pretty low key. I just keep an Excel sheet with each recipe name, link, estimated calories, and any fresh ingredients I need in the fridge to make it. I also program these all as recipes into my meal tracking app. It might seem boring, but I find it a big help to just eliminate the amount of times I need to stew over what exactly to prepare and what will fit where. And instead, know, okay, here's a list of 400-calorie meals that you know you can make right now and put into your tracker with just a few clicks. I read a really interesting blog article on the Lose It app that really put this into perspective for me. They said that most calorie counts aren't even accurate, that calories are a terrible way to count, but that you should count them anyway, because it's so much more complicated to count other things and that calories are an approximation. So whenever I find myself getting hyper about exact calories, I try to remind myself that they're an approximation, and that if I'm close, it's good enough. And that's helped me stick with Seco since September this time. Granted, I've lost 15 pounds in those 9 months, but that's slow and steady and works for me. Best of luck. I have definitely in the past gone to all in and burnt myself out. After repeating this cycle many times, I really had to be honest with myself. This is not to project or imply you are in the same shoes as me. This is just my own experience. And that I knew very well how it would end up if I continued doing things the same way. So this time, I was realistic with myself. I didn't restrict certain foods or make rules about any arbitrary things. I eat what is easiest, most convenient, and things I enjoy, or at the very least, I don't hate. Realistically, not everything everyone eats is their best meal ever, even when not dieting. And don't cut out the things that make your meal enjoyable. Plan, but figure out a way to plan that isn't obsessive. If I know I want a certain thing for dinner that day, that is, as an example, 550 calories, I add it to my app at the beginning of the day so I can base the rest of my intake throughout the day on that. Give yourself a calorie goal, but also have a padding for a day here and there where you need a couple hundred extra calories. I aim for 1200 to 1500, but if I really need it, I can do 1700 or 1800 and still be in a respectable deficit for the day. If you need a day off counting diligently, take it, but don't use it as an excuse to overdo it. Allow yourself a maintenance day here and there if you need it, and even a day where you go over is okay too. Just get right back on track afterwards. And perfection is not required, and that is the main thing I've learned over the years. Yes, I'm unfortunately very familiar with this pattern. Eating at a calorie deficit for long periods of time can be mentally exhausting for the reasons you mentioned, having to remember everything you eat and log it. Depending on how quickly you want to lose weight, you might want to consider incorporating diet breaks. The idea of a diet break is that it gives you a bit of a reprieve from the deficit. During a break, you don't go overboard and eat at a surplus, but instead eat at your maintenance calories. A typical schedule would be 2 weeks of restriction and 2 weeks of eating at maintenance. Obviously, you lose weight more slowly this way, but there are leading researchers in the area of fitness and nutrition that propose that this is a more sustainable model for weight loss. There is even evidence to show that taking breaks can counteract metabolic adaptation. That is when your body adjusts to burning fewer calories. Some level of adaptation is normal. It's just what happens when we start losing weight. As we get smaller, we require fewer calories. The diet break method can mitigate this to a degree, making the adaptation less severe. I'm very obese and I have a lot of weight to lose, but I'm considering starting diet breaks when I get closer to my goal weight, just for the mental health aspect. Long-term restriction is hard. So I don't log these days, but I'm still losing. I'll likely start again if my progress stalls too hard, but my strategy is as follows. 1. Half my plate is veg. This usually means I end up making 2 veggie sides for dinner. 2. 1/4 is protein, and 1/4 is a decent carb. I avoid white flour and white rice. If you eat to those proportions, it's actually kind of hard to overeat your limits, assuming your portions are halfway sane. My nutritionist told me to do this, and it works darn well. Consider tracking and logging until you learn to estimate. If you can estimate and still lose, do that. Logging is just a means to an end. If you can achieve the end by other means, there's nothing magical about it. I do a mix of weighing and measuring perfectly with a dash of routine. Breakfast and lunch are usually a rotation of the same thing, and winging it. My husband loves to cook, and while I know he would measure and keep track of everything he put into a recipe if I asked him to, I don't want to take too much of joy out of it for him. For example, this weekend he made a giant, incredible lasagna. There was no way I was going to try to figure that out. So I tracked most of my day, weighing and measuring, and when it came to dinner, I picked a similar sounding dish and used that in the app. I loaded up on salad first so that I would be less likely to go nuts on it, and it worked out fine. Now, this may not work for everyone and works best for me when it's something I do a few nights a week and not all the time. And if it stops working for me, I will change it. And that brings us to the end of the video, Narwhals. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please tap subscribe to join our awesome community, the Narwhals, and for more weight loss stories that help you stay on track. And here's our featured Narwhal of the day. Long-time lurker, a first-time poster. So grateful I stumbled on Luke Narwhal's channel last June. It's helped me immensely. 23 female, 5'5", starting weight 240 pounds, current weight 156 pounds, and goal weight 140-ish.